right, I'm back here with Jordan Shallow, and we're going to go over the overhead press. Arguably one of the hardest exercises to teach somebody mechanically. I see a lot of people mess this up. For a long time when I would do the overhead press, I'd have filled it in my low back a lot, couldn't get full extension. And I think most of the people that struggle with this movement, they're not setting themselves up for success before they even get into the movement. What I want to do, since you are probably one of the most intelligent guys that I've ever met as far as the prerequisites of getting ready for overhead press or any movement, what are some of the things, one, let's do an overhead press that you look for, break down typically, and then what are some go-to moves that you would teach?
Okay, yeah, I mean the overhead press is difficult by design because we're loading as far away from the center of gravity as possible. So there's a lot of different things that can break down, but we're going to focus primarily just on the shoulders and the upper back. So, I mean, that's pretty good overhead press from the start. The one thing we want to focus controlling that position of the rib cage is to not excessively extend that lumbar spine. Some of that can actually be reactionary to not being able to get in a good position through the shoulders. So if we miss two things we're going to focus on today, if we're missing thoracic extension, which isn't going to allow our shoulder blades to sit in a good position to load in that safe overhead, and that would sometimes force us to tilt that rib cage up and increase the extension of the lower back. And then moving out from the shoulder blades, we're going to look at that glenohumeral rotation. So how the actual ball and socket of the shoulder is more or less primed to get into that full overhead position, which takes a good bit of rotation for that to happen. So the two things we will focus on, upper back extension, and then work on sort of that increasing that external rotation in that shoulder flex position.
Okay, so first move, we're coming over here.
Yeah, so this is going to be a child's pose. So we use a PVC or a PVC pipe or a dowel. So we're going to go on knees, good. Now the key here, I want elbows straight out from the shoulders.
Okay, like this?
Good, yeah. Now I'm going to drop that in your hand there. Now I want to drop the head through. Bring the knees back a little bit so we're 90 degrees in the hips. Good. Now kind of go through a bicep curl with both. Now some people might even find this difficult. Good. Now when we're in that end range flex position at the elbow, we're going to think drop this sternum down. We're going to let those shoulder blades relax. Good. And we're trying to get as much thoracic extension as possible. And we just kind of hang out there. You should probably feel a stretch through that long-headed tricep. Lats, things are going to abduct the shoulder. Now we're in a full flexed and abducted position. So
now, am I keeping good tension on the flexion here? Right?
Yeah, no, for sure. We want to sort of go through that opposition of that range of motion, right? Especially if the triceps are going to be a rate limiter for some people in getting that overhead. So make sure we keep tension through and we keep the intent of dropping that sternum down to the floor. And
I'm going to keep tension here for about how long before?
30, 45 seconds. Yeah, with a long lever stretch like this, don't be afraid to hold this one for a little bit longer. We're not looking at something that's going to end up decreasing our performance, especially with the activation we're going to get into next before we go load the bar.
So a good solid hold, keeping tension for about 15 to 30 seconds at least. And then you think one to two times is plenty?
Do it in conjunction with ascending warm-up sets of the main movement of the overhead press. I mean, we don't get stronger in a set, we don't get bigger in a workout, we're not going to get more mobile just by doing it once. So the idea is to see how this mobility transfers over to the actual exercise, right? That's the whole point we're doing this.
Let me explain what you just said right there, because this is something I started doing different because of you. Because I used to separate a lot of my warm-up
workout. No, totally.
Yeah. Right. So, and this is because of all the time that you and I have hung out, this has definitely been a game changer for me. So in other words, you do this movement, you come over with a really light weight.
Yeah, empty bar.
Yep, empty bar, do the movement. Then I'm gonna come back, revisit the stretch again, go back to it. So it's kind of, I'm intermittently putting this in to probably that first 4 or 5 sets that I do on the overhead press.
It's a great algorithm to follow for all your warm-up drills because it allows you to appraise the value of each drill. We're not doing this to get better at this, we're doing this to get better at that. If the people are watching, they don't find a benefit from doing this, then fine. Use the algorithm, use that takeaway of intermittently, like you said, integrating warm-ups with your ascending warm-up sets of the main movement, because that way you can isolate your variable and find out what works for you.
In other words, and what I love what you're saying right now is that we teach so many different exercises and movements and stretches, and it's like, which ones do I need to do? That's so many, I'm gonna spend all this time. Well, this is how you figure out what's best for you.
Yeah.
Is we may teach you these 2 moves to get you ready for an overhead press, and one of them may be a huge game changer for you. Yeah. You may feel a total difference in the movement, you feel better, you're stronger. That's like your flag that, hey, that's something that you need to do. Another one, you may not feel a difference whatsoever, and that's how you kind of eliminate that and maybe put something else in there that we teach.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, from here, so we worked with that thoracic extension position. We're going to focus now on that glenohumeral, that actual ball and socket of the shoulder, as far as getting into an externally rotated position in that full overhead shoulder flex. We're gonna anchor this a little bit high, ideally be right at shoulder height, if not a little bit below. We're gonna walk through, come behind the back of the elbow, and we're gonna double up and then grab the hand there. Then we pull into that shoulder flex position. Okay. Now from here, we're going to get into a split lunge. Again, comes down to controlling the rib cage. I don't want this shoulder in an overhead position by arching my lower back excessively. So take control over that lumbar spine, tense up the midsection with that hip into extension. Now from here, we're going to work two movements. We're going to work through the plane of flexion extension. We're also going to work through the plane of rotation. So first, we're just thinking elbow high from the shoulder blade. So really posteriorly tilt that shoulder blade, rib cage stays down. We're gonna lean into it. Now from here, the key is activation of shoulder extension. So from here, we're gonna think down into the band, bring that and just hold. Okay. Hold that isometric.
Create that tension. 6
to 8 seconds. We go through that, and then when we relax, we try and find a new end range of motion.
So kind of PNF style.
Exactly, so PNF style. We got the second piece to this through that rotation. A lot of people neglect. We're gonna internally rotate first. So my backhand here, my palm is gonna come in. We're gonna generate internal rotation.
Okay.
And then as we hold that 6 to 8 seconds, when we relax, we're actually gonna start rotating away. So leave that hand in that same position. Then when we rotate our torso, we're generating external rotation through the shoulder. So hand comes in, hold that internal, relax, body turns towards, creates external rotation.
When you're doing this, is that because are you waking up? I mean, are you trying to get reconnected here, or are you more focused on the stretch? And
Yeah, more worried about the mobility through that teres minor thread infraspinatus, those external rotators that are going to tense up on us in those unstable positions if we're uncertain of our body's capability of stabilizing in that structurally less than stable position. So elbow stays high, we're in more so the stretch here when we activate and then relax, and then we're going to activate and relax.
Again, this is something you're holding for about 6 seconds, releasing, moving back into the stretch, releasing about 5-10 rounds, about how many?
Yeah, do it in repetitions. So I mean, I would say 3 or 4 reps per cycle through into the overhead press. So child's pose with the PVC, 30-45 seconds. Alternate reps, 3 or 4 straight into extension, 3 or 4 into rotation, get on an empty bar, and go through it again. And then every time you come back to the bar, throw a little bit more weight on to see how you're responding.
Excellent. Add these, you guys, to you guys' overhead press, see if it improves. Make sure if you guys like these videos, you guys share them, subscribe. We drop a new video every single day.